Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring, let we rule them all. Hope you'd remember your towel. Get your Ulu feathers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the pit tank. To the pit tank. The Rocky Mountain pit tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy,
and this is Geek Tank.
your haunter-sized podcast.
So, hey, Troy, it's all non-Hallows Eve or something.
Well, it's the day after Halloween.
Well, that's what they all say.
And
So, we are going to have a special guest today.
Dia de los Mortes. It's Day of the Dead.
The Day of the Not Dead. No, it's All Saints Day today.
And then, well, it's Day of the Dead's like 2 days, All Saints Day, and then tomorrow, Day of the Dead. But I think they consider
it's like a 2-day party for dead people. I think there's a song about that by Ungo.
Well, it's a dead man's party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
so
we have a special guest today.
Yeah, we couldn't do the show yesterday because it was Halloween. So this is the post-Halloween show.
Eating candy.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, you can't have a show when you're eating candy.
No, you can't.
Okay.
So let's welcome our guest, John Cowgill.
Hello. Thank you for welcome. Thank you for welcoming us to the show.
Howdy,
we'll edit in
howdy gentlemen.
applause
How are
later.
you?
Yeah. Hi, doing great. How about yourself?
I'm surviving, doing
Okay.
best I can post Halloween.
Cool. So, I guess the best way to introduce you is we've known each other for a long time, but we've only been able to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, we've known each other for almost 10 years now.
Yeah, I want to say 2013, somewhere between 2012 and 2013 is when we met.
I was actually about 2012, so almost about 10 years now.
Yeah, nice. And you have a diverse background involved in many fingers and many acting pies. So everything
you could put it. You could put it that way.
Yeah. Renaissance to haunted houses to singing.
I've been doing Ren fairs for the past decade plus. I've been doing haunted houses since '95. I have did murder mysteries with you guys. I'm also a martial arts teacher, hypnotist, a karaoke host, an ordained minister, and a bunch of other small things.
Nice. Yep. So I thought it would be cool to have you on here and talk about haunted houses because it's something that it's definitely not in Guy's wheelhouse. And it's one of those things that I don't really go to them because I don't get anything out of it. But I would appreciate the performers and everything they put into it. But it's kind of the same way of like when I get dragged along to a ballet or something. It's the show as a show isn't something that grabs me, but all of the things that go into making the show, I appreciate from the background of like a producer, director type standpoint.
His problem is that he can't get anything out of it because everything's nailed down. So that makes it a real difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to steal stuff.
It's hard.
It is.
It's difficult.
So you mentioned there in your opening how long you've been doing haunted houses, but let's go back to that again. When did you first start doing haunted houses?
Oh gods, I'm 41 now, and I was doing haunted houses back when I was 15. Yeah, 15. Back in one of the local haunted houses, one of the oldest runnings in the area. My brother, my best friend, I call him my brother, had a couple years younger than me. His older sister had gotten a job at a haunted house, and to kind of, I guess, satisfy my best friend's urges, she convinced the owner to give us jobs there, and we started working there. I worked at that particular haunted house till it got bought out by a local haunted house conglomerate. That is a thing. And then we moved there.
Let's see if that fixes. Hang on,
we're losing you. We're losing connectivity with your audio. There.
With your
Gotcha. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I turned off the echo cancellation to see if maybe that would help out some. So you were 15 when you were pulled into.
Yep. Give me just a moment to turn mine on as well because yay, doing things on the fly.
Yes.
Well, we'll edit it
All right,
all
cool.
out in
So
post. Don't worry.
that's fair. That's fair. Could you touch up a couple places while you're there, just in case?
Well, totally. I'm just going to black out all of Troy's. Just black it all out.
Witness location.
Yeah, started when I was
Relocation.
15. My best friend, my brother, he was 13, and his older sister got a job at one of the local haunted houses. And to kind of satisfy his urges, they ended up getting convincing the owner to get us jobs there. And we worked there until from '95 till about 2000, when that place was bought by a local haunted house. And yes, that is a thing. They started running it to the ground, in my opinion, and I had jumped ship shortly after that to help open a local haunt in the area. And I was there for another couple of years, and then my then spouse ended up convincing me to come out of out of the haunt industry for about 10 years. We split, and my current spouse brought me back into the industry. We worked together at that haunted attraction from 2011 to 2014, and then moved to another one, worked there until it closed, and not COVID related. The place was actually sold out from under us, and then moved to where we currently are, which amusingly enough is the same haunt that I started with, 95.
That's kind of cool.
Gone full circle.
Yep.
So, obviously you enjoy it, or you wouldn't have stayed with it for so long.
True, although this was literally Saturday night was my last night haunting for the season and for at least the next year because I'm taking a full sabbatical for next year.
Yeah.
Which is good because you said before when we were in the green room that you're losing your voice a little there because of
and not only that, but it's been so long I'm starting to lose my spark and I want to take a step back before I lose the want to do it anymore and get bitter in the industry.
I totally understand that. I hear that.
So you had mentioned before we started that you were doing the front position where you're the caller. In
a sense, I'm actually the front door. I'm not the caller. I am the introduction person. I'm the person that sets the tone, that gives the storyline, and actually gets them in the mood of what they're going to encounter when they come inside.
Okay. How many different positions, or what are the positions in a haunt?
Well, when we're talking, for lack of a better term, grunt work, you've got the scarers, you've got the haunters that are inside the rooms that actually populate and make the scares that people come in to see. Because unlike, no, you can't come in, cat, go away. You're not allowed to come in, go away, cat. My cat's trying to get in. I don't know if in the background you can see my door kind of going boom, 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 boom.
Right.
But you've got the people that, with a lot of improvisational theater, you're there and the audience is here and you're going back and forth. With haunted houses, it is a type of improvisational theater, except the scares are central and the audience walks through. So you have these characters that have certain positions within the room and they have the room to work in, and you're, as a patron, walking through that stage to be able to get the experience. So you have the people that are populating the rooms. In a lot of modern haunts, you have one group of folks that are the internal haunters. You then have the folks that work the crowd, the outdoor haunters, sort of the line crew. They are the outdoor haunters that go around and do atmospheric scares on the outside to get people pumped for what they're going to do inside. And then in more modern days, from what I understand, no, you can't come in.
Just found another door to scratch
Do
at.
you see that shaking back there?
It's awesome.
Try pulling your mic a little bit out. We're still getting some weird popping noises, and I'm wondering if it's...
How's that?
I'll know in a minute. But so far, it sounds good.
Fair enough.
Okay.
The joys and wonders of having to do it on the fly.
Yes.
And then you have, in more modern haunts, you actually have a lot of will have a separate chainsaw location and outdoor maze, and there's a lot of places that have their own separate chainsaw. Probably be the latter half.
I think I might have figured it out. Because you emote with your hands, and when we're testing, you're not moving your hands. I think your hands are causing a weird thing with
that's
that.
Weird.
So.
Okay.
Stop moving, John.
I will do my best.
All right, let's see if that makes a difference. So the thing I heard was chainsaws.
Yeah, we got chainsaws.
There is an outdoor crew that is not the line crew, that is more like the folks that deal with the chainsaw maze and the chainsaw chase out. And this does not, it's not universal with a lot of haunts, but there are several that have this crew that work together to organize the final third or the final quarter of the haunt that is more intense and more chase-like, and they will be the chainsaw chase-out crew. And those are the three, at least from the haunts that I've had experience at, three main groups, and that changes up depending on what part of the country you're in, what type of haunt's being used, whether it's a classic one-story, two-story indoor haunt, whether it's a sprawling outdoor haunt or a screen park that has multiple haunts, whether it is a corn maze or something like that. There are so many different ideas of what a scare could be.
Right.
And your person at the front door, the atmospheric, the door person, the introduction person, if you will, works both as atmosphere and both as scare if they can get one. But then you have your people that are working on the inside to help operate. You got your ticket takers, you got your security, you have got your maintenance folks on the inside, you've got your directors, your ops managers, your owners. I mean, there's so many different varied places within a haunted house or a haunted attraction to be able to help make it. We try to make it run as smooth machinery, but sometimes it's more of a conglomeration of traps and bells and whistles.
Right. One of the things I am noticing, Troy, is that when he cuts out, his video keeps operating, and then and when he comes back, the audio and the video are out of sync. So I think one of the things happening is probably just upload on his side.
Oh,
Come on.
Yeah.
Might as well let him in.
Yeah, let the cat in. This is a cat-friendly show.
Honestly, George will join us somewhere along the line in here too. And George hangs out with me all the time, and he may jump up on here.
Fair enough. And I tried to make sure I work for the internet people. I tried to make sure that I have my physical connection here, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't relying on my case.
So, out of all those positions, do you have a favorite one?
Honestly, over the years, because there is a lot of physical necessity for doing a lot of stuff, and I'm a lot older than some of the other actors there, so doing the more intense theatrical stuff is something that I kind of rely on a bit more. So I like doing the stuff. I like doing the exposition.
That makes sense.
Because there's a lot of physicality. I mean, just here again, Troy's right. I think like I said, the last time I've been in a haunted house, I was 10. So, and I'm not going back. I don't need to, and sort of thing. But
fair,
like Troy said, I also really respect what you guys are doing as far as actors and as far as doing your job. And so I can really see, though, if you've got to be bouncing out at people and then backing up and retreating to your alcove and then bouncing out again at the next people coming through, that's a lot of physicality. There's a lot of movement going on. And so I can actually respect that, too. I can see where you've got kind of a certain amount of, you got to get the younger people and stick them in there, because the older people are like, you know what? I am done bouncing. I've bounced 4 times, and that's it. I'm out.
Yeah. I'm done. Count me out. I'm on the ground trying to breathe.
Right. I'm just gonna lie here for a minute.
There's since haunted houses aren't your thing, Guy, there's also an aspect I wanted to bring up that because I know John and his wife who are haunters. I know a handful of other people who are also haunters. So I hear stories about the dangerous aspects to being a haunter, because you get guests that don't respect personal boundaries. So
or get, I mean, when I was younger, I was in martial arts, and you bounce out at me, I could throw you.
Yeah.
So this is something that we talked about briefly when we were having coffee a while back, John, was a guest gets like one reflex reaction. And then if they continue to do it, then it's no longer reflex and it's just them being a jerk. So go into this.
We call it the fight or flight response, which technically should be the fight, flight, or freeze response, because you either freeze, oh my God, you want to fight, or you want to wait. Those are usually universally the 3 responses to getting scared. As a haunter, especially one that's been in the business, and even the new ones we get in, we gave our line crew self-defense training just in case, because every freaking night, every year, at least one of our actors gets slapped or gets punched in the face. It's most of the time it's not malicious, because it's like, oh God, and you'll see them go, I'm sorry. Sometimes the actors will get upset, and and depending on the patron, the patron will get ejected. Most of the time, if it's one like that, and they can tell it's a fair response, they will roll with it. We teach them how to dodge, how to block, how to roll with it, because it's going to happen. It's part of the job. You know that when you get in. When you get patrons that are looking for, you get able to tell who you're looking at, just like a bouncer knows when folks are coming into a bar what type of patron they're going to be. As a seasoned haunter, you will learn the look and the smell, depending of the people that are coming through, of what type of patron they're going to be. So
I was
the
actually
minute
gonna
they
say
start,
that. Yeah, I was going to say something about that too. You've got to have the people who pee themselves. I mean, it's got to happen. I can't imagine it not happening.
there are some haunts, and actually, I was looking on You'll Look at Faces today to see one of my haunted friends that I've known for years was sitting in their actor's room, and they have a board on the wall, on the back wall, that has folks that have wet themselves, folks that have relieved themselves, folks that pass out, and they will keep records of them. Some haunts do that as a kind of congratulations, you have won the award for getting this many bodily function excretions during a thing.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, I'm a freeze person. That's like that's definitely my response would be like just a freeze. But I used to be a fight. And it's a nice thing. I've gotten older now. I'm not likely to punch you or throw you, or grab your arm and throw you or whatever.
Right.
So freeze is my new thing, but luckily I'm not a peer, I guess.
That you would admit to.
That you will admit to, and it's interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm pushing 50, so give me time. I mean, there will come a time where it's like
I'm peeing right now.
I just peed. It didn't even have anything to do with anything. Like we didn't even scare you.
Since you mentioned the self-defense thing,
type of haunt.
I was going to say, since you mentioned the self-defense thing, are haunters is a default thing for when a haunter is going to jump out is it recommended they come out with their hands up already in a defensive position?
Again, it depends on the type of scare they're trying to do, and it also depends on the type of haunt. That rolls back what I was going to say. There are two types, actually three types of haunt out there. There's a complete and strictly no hands, hands-off policy on a lot of haunts, which is completely fine. Which will do minor brushes to the hair, very light taps on the shoulder. Ooh. And then, like the haunted house that I worked this year, more extreme haunts in the region. For example, if a couple of years ago they had an even extra extreme thing, you had to sign a waiver, they'd waterboard you while you were inside. Sometimes we will pick with the non super extreme, but we will sometimes bodily pick up a patron and take them off into the house somewhere. And the thing is,
nice.
This is explained to them when they come get their ticket. It is advertised to them when you grabbed. These are things that are come to expect. It is assumed risk because we tell you, hey, this stuff is going to happen. You have to be ready for it. You never told us. Yes, we did. It's in the speech. It's in the literature. You just didn't want to read. So we will sometimes bodily pick people up and move them. In the front room of what we work on now, there is a space that they have to step down into an elevator prop. And sometimes people will freeze up there. So we have to bodily hands in and shove them into the room.
Nice. I mean, if you're into this kind of stuff, this sounds awesome. I mean, it really does. I mean, frankly, I mean, like that kind of stuff, that's the kind of stuff that I wouldn't mind. That would be the stuff that it would be freaky, it'd be creepy, but that wouldn't be anxiety inducing for me. You know what I mean? That'd be the cool stuff.
Right.
So there's
jumping out at me that would be terrifying. So
I'd heard about this, so I had to look it up because I haven't actually watched it or dug into it. But apparently, it was featured on a Netflix show. The Dark Tourist in 2018 was a haunted house. McCanny Manor. Is this sounding familiar to you, John? The Extreme Haunted House was originally featured in the Netflix show.
Yes, it is very familiar.
He has a consternated look on his face.
Well, yeah, from reading it, I get the idea that I would too, and just to catch Guy up on it. So it's back in the news. It's promising guests $20,000 if they are capable of completing the terrifying 10-hour tour. But according to participants, McKinney Manor is actually a torture chamber in disguise. So I'll pass it on to you, John.
It is not a haunted house whatsoever. It is a glorified torture chamber, so the actors and the owners can get off with it and never actually give you anything. Because it's a 10-hour trip, but it's not a haunted house. It's a glorified torture survival. I, in a sense, and I'm not going to blame you guys for this whatsoever, but I get offended anytime someone compares that actual haunted attraction, because we go in for the idea of junkies to give fear to them, to give something, but we're not to torture you, because that's not fun for anybody. I mean, I don't care if it's something you like. There's always too much of a good thing. And 10 hours?
Right.
No.
Mhm.
I'm going to actually try something with you real quick, John. Down at
Sure.
the bottom, you can see the cam and mic button. If you click on that and click on camera, click on show advanced options. Let's see if we can't drop your resolution down.
Low definition helps.
Yeah, low definition. See if that helps us any.
Sure.
Or if you just freeze totally up. Oh, there we go.
He's huge.
You're huger. The only reason I'm saying
floating
that,
head.
yeah, I keep seeing out of sync on this, where your audio goes out of sync with your video, and that's when you cut out, and we're losing bits and
Fair
pieces of this. So I'm like, let's see if we can't cut your
That's
bandwidth
fair.
down.
No worries.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that helped quite a bit.
my other guess would be maybe there's a tiny little short somewhere in one of the wires or something, because it also, but it's yeah, you won't know it until you watch it, and then you'll be able to say, oh,
Right.
that's what they were doing. So. Yeah,
Okay,
this
cool.
is not at all what I would call a haunted house. It's a totally different
Yeah,
category.
And you know, of course, me being a complete noob to the entire genre, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, and exactly, that's what they're preying on. That's what they're hoping for. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to go to this place. So they're the most extreme. It's going to be 10 hours. And yeah, no, that's who they're trying to cater to, or people like yourself that have no experience at all with them.
Which makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. And then they get in there, and then they regret it. Regret my life choices.
Yeah. Some of the things that they mentioned that you have to sign for in the waiver is fish hooked. So I assume that's putting fish hooks through the skin. Have plastic bags wrapped around your faces, which can lead to suffocation. Have your teeth extracted without Novocaine. So this is like illegal stuff that I guess if you sign a waiver.
I don't care if you sign a waiver for that, because they've been in so many sets of legal trouble.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's, I mean, okay, I could see, people do piercings and things like that. I can kind of see that. But that's not permanent damage. Extracting a tooth is a permanent, that's a permanent thing.
It's also scare tactics.
Yeah. But it's also, $2,000 to put in an implant.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that to be a...
Yep. That stuff's put in there for scare tactics on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
That sounds so. I mean, rightfully so. That doesn't sound like what you guys are up to.
No, I mean,
when I
yes.
think of a haunted house, I mean, obviously, we're still thinking 1982, which is the last time I was at a haunted house. So, to be fair, I'm sure it has evolved quite a bit from just people jumping out from the shadows.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's evolved so much, not only with the amount of training that your actors get, the quality of the costuming and the makeup, with the quality of the technology or the animatronics that are used, depending on if you're animatronics heavy or actor heavy, as well as the quality of the writing. Not only that, but you have to think about, as we get older and as this generation gets more normalized to the violence and the gore and whatever they see on television, they want something that goes beyond their normality. So the haunted attraction industry has to keep stepping up and has to keep amping up and ramping up to give them something that will override their sense of normalcy. So those things have just been steadily increasing.
That makes sense. I can see that. And it makes it more terrifying in a lot of ways, and that probably works really well. But I guess it's kind of like, to some degree, like Disney's haunted house, at Disneyland or whatever,
the haunted mansion.
Yeah, that's too much for me. I'm just saying, I'm such a wuss that is too much for me, and I'm sure that you would see that as really very mild and tame.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wouldn't be scary, of course, also because I enjoy the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'd be sitting down going, oh, I've heard about this. Look how they're doing this in the background. And look how they're doing this. And oh, my God, this is wonderful.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see
I'm
that.
one of those haunters, which is what we call ourselves, that will go to other haunted houses, not worry about being scared, but I will sit there and mentally I'll be watching and picking apart the decor and going, oh, they popped out from there. I'll be pointing out there's an actor pocket, and that's where somebody's going to come out. And oh my God, your makeup's wonderful.
Right, right. So I did see somewhere along the line somebody had put a flash camera in one of their haunted houses, and I thought that
Yeah.
was funny. So when the jump scare happened, the camera took a
Yep.
picture. They ended up with a whole bunch of picture of people like, you know, and and some of those are hysterical. I'm sure. I hope they got permission, of course.
Right. Well, usually with stuff like that, they will either sign a waiver or it'll be written on the. It's called implied consent. It'll be written on the stuff when you first buy the ticket. It's, hey, there's going to be cameras and photos. By buying this ticket, you're agreeing to let us use your image in our promotions.
Right, right. Yeah, Brent's saying you end up knowing the tricks of what they're doing. Yeah.
That's correct. And as a fellow performer, it's just like as an actor, anything going to other performances, yes, you're going to enjoy it, but as an actor or as a stage director, you're going to sit there and enjoy the not just a performance, but the professionalism they put into it, both from the actor's point of view and the backstage crew.
Right, right. And that makes total sense. I could see that. That'd be a lot of fun. So that works. I mean, it's the same thing with anything. I mean, as a comic artist, I like to go see how other people do comics. You know, what paper do you use? What pens do you use? Oh, really? You're using watercolors? How did you get that to work on a scrapboard page? You know, so
there is, and I'm sure in your all's industries you get this as a creative. When you tend to meet other creatives, even after the event is done, you will all sit in a parking lot and just sit and chat. Just for Ren Fair folks, it's a Rennie and parking lot system. For haunters, it's haunters and parking lot, and half of that is us talking shop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we talk in the parking lots too. It's just, I'm sure we're not as scarily painted. So, I mean, you know, we're just a whole bunch of comic book nerds. So there's that.
So you want to do our? Oh, sorry, lost your audio there.
Oh, his audio is completely out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can.
I had a mute button. That's my bot. I bumped into it. But no, go ahead. Go ahead. You were saying, Troy.
I was going to say, since we're in our midpoint, you want to do our little
Yep, it's time
shout
for
out?
us to talk about our sponsors. Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, Shiny Garden, and Your Mom. Okay,
Thanks, Mom.
so yep, and we were just at Kieran Games for Fan Expo, and we want to give a special shout out for them because I promised him that I would indeed turn those two dolphins into Cetacean Ops Star Trek characters. So there's that.
So yes, for those who don't know, you need to tell people because they're like, "What?"
Yeah, well, it's a thing. So Lower Decks is the new animated. Well, now it's the second newest animated Star Trek. And in the last episode of this last season, they actually showed Cetacean Ops, which they'd been talking about since literally the next generation of Star Trek, which is where they have dolphins and beluga whales, which help navigate the ship. And they have them in little Starfleet uniforms, and they have universal translators on them, so they just sit there and talk to each other. And it's very funny. And it was particularly humorous. And so Kieran Games had two dolphin miniatures, and he was like, I picked him up with like dolphins. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I should do these in Cetacean Ops. And he just threw it in the bag.
That's wonderful.
He's like, I've got to see Cetacean Ops. So
Here we go.
Thing.
Just so people can see.
Oh God.
So he's he's going to paint these little dolphin miniatures in Star Trek uniforms.
Yep. So I'll put them in their Star Trek uniforms for Cetacean Ops.
I
so there
approve.
We go. Thank you.
I approve.
Thank you.
Yeah, I picked up from Kieran Games. It was Cats and Catacombs, I believe, is the name of it. They're basically cats in D&D adventurer outfits. So you got the barbarian, the paladin, and they're just hilariously cute. And
I got a set for my kid because he's a cat guy. So.
And you're running a cat role playing game.
Yeah, we've got a cat role playing game too, which is really cool. It's simplified, so it's for kids. It's a kids role playing game. But that's the best part about it. It's got 3 attributes, and the skills are drawn from a deck of cards. So you place the skills in front of you so you can read them and see what the skills are.
Right.
and it's really clever and well done. But
Now,
it is
do you get to die 9 times?
yes, actually,
I would. That's how I would.
It
have
is a
made it.
mechanic. I love it.
Good.
yeah, it's part of the mechanic. So although it's a kid's game, so I think at the end of the 9th time you just reset the 9 times
Oh yeah.
because it's a kid's game. You know,
Yeah, you don't want to traumatize the kid and ruin them for role-playing games for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
No,
wait
not
until
like
they're like
our
14.
Yeah, I was going to say not like our people did. The number of characters that I got
Stack
killed
of
in.
character sheets brought with you.
Well, we were back in the day when they had the whole series of books, the Death Trap books.
I have several of them. I remember.
And so, you know,
I'm a-
when you get a DM who spent $5 on one of those, he's like, "I'm going to use it."
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So
ahead.
you've got a number of other. I mean, I don't know if have you exhausted all of your questions, Troy? Because
I thought it'd be nice to talk about some of both the most memorable haunted house stories and then, of course, haunted house horror stories.
Sure.
I'm curious about both of those now. You're
Okay.
right. Now that you said that, I need
One of my favorite ones, and this is one I enjoy telling a lot back in my younger days. I had and first of all, I've been taking martial arts myself. I'm doing it since I was 10, so about 30 years now. Taekwondo being my main martial art. I had this group come in, and I scared them silly, and then I faded into the background, let them move on to the next room, which happened to have one of my favorite haunted houses, which is called Pepper's Ghost Illusion. Are you familiar?
Ghost Illusion.
No, not familiar with
The
that
Pepper's Ghost Illusion.
Oh, Pepper's Ghost Illusion.
Yeah, basically,
one. Does
it's
that
an
really
idea.
clear it up for you?
No. Well, he cut out, so I wanted to make sure that we repeated it.
Okay.
Fair enough. The Pepper's Ghost. Basically, it's a sheet of glass that has one part of a two-part illusion with a dead body, and then it has a 45-degree angle mirror here with somebody else behind it and a light shining. When they pass by, the light shines on, and it looks like a ghost appears over top of the body and can start operating on it without actually being there. It's one of my favorite Pepper's Ghost illusions, or one of my favorite illusions. I watched that, and they'd stare wide-eyed, and I'd duck down and crab walk behind the group and get in front of them and pop up and scare them again. They came up and ran into me, and this 5'0" young lady sees me, and all of a sudden I see the fear, and she chose fight. So all of a sudden she drops into a Taekwondo fighting stance.
Oh,
My
no.
brain at this point is going, okay, let's see where this goes. She turns around and does an absolutely wonderful back-turning sidekick directly into my chest.
Nice.
My reaction was not to attack. My reaction was just to smile and catch her foot.
Right.
Bared my teeth and goes, "That's a pretty kick. Can I keep it?" And I push. She screams bloody murder, dominoes the entire group as I chase them back down the hallway.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, that Pepper's illusion you were talking about. I remember that was in the haunted mansion that I had gone to because they did that with the carts. So your cart would come along and they would do the same thing where there was a ghost sitting between you as you came around because it was
Yay,
that
lights
same
and mirrors.
illusion. Mm-hmm.
And I love.
And I
if you-
actually figured that one out. I was like watching it as we went through. I was like, "Oh, that's clever," you know.
And Pepper's Ghost has been around for God's at least 100 years, if not more. And I love practical effects in movies, and doing practical effects in haunted houses is honestly almost required because you don't really have the ability to do digital post-op after a group's already gone through. And it's a simple thing to do. It's really easy to set up, and if done correctly, it can really grab you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's awesome. So, do you have any horror stories then, like where things just went south?
I've had a bunch. Hell, some
I
this
see.
year, and not even ones from me. I've had ones from the folks I work with. I have ones where a patron got upset because an actor or actress was scaring their daughter, became Mama Bear or Papa Bear, and attacked the actor. They had to be pulled off. Security had to be called, and the actor pressed charges, as they rightly should have.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
Especially nowadays, that happens more often than not. Either somebody comes in and they are the "you're not going to scare me" or "you're not going to scare my person," and they react overly violently when something like that happens, or they come in an altered state of mind with either alcohol or other drugs in their system. And personally, I have no issue with people partaking occasionally, and that particular type of partation, that's not a word, but of
We'll
smoking,
take it.
fair
We'll
enough,
take it.
that particular version of intake for it I have no issue with normally, and it's one of the most benign because it's one of the most relaxing, but it's still coming into this place in an altered state of mind. And if you yourself have an altered state, then you are not of the normal psychological profile that our haunters and actors can be able to reliably scare. Therefore, you're
Right.
bringing an unknown option to this, which makes it dangerous for everyone.
That makes sense. I think that's pretty much true of anything that's got that. I mean, because we would all think of that for all dojos as well.
Exactly.
I mean, like, clearly you don't want people in an altered state in a dojo either.
No.
So that's fair.
And I mean, I've been doing this off and on through the last 25 years, and I have seen both good and bad, and it 99% of the stuff that bad happen is the patrons do to themselves because they come in expecting to be able to control the situation when they're coming to a place where they don't have control. And that's the entire point of that fright, is they're supposed to have the feeling of, I have lost control. Oh, oh crap.
Mm-hmm. Which I figure probably is also attractive to this kind of people, a certain demographic.
What do you mean, these kinds of people?
A certain demographic. Well, no, actually, I mean,
I know what you mean.
What he's bringing up is a sort of a psychological thing that I actually can think of. There are people who have such control over all of the aspects of their life that it is actually entertaining to them to put themselves in situations where they don't have control, and that's, relaxing or relieving or whatever. And I can understand that, and that makes some sense.
It's attractive to both people and I'll be very blatant, it's attractive to people that are in the kink community that consider themselves having very much control of their lives, but in the closet and in the bedroom, they're subs. They come in and their subspace will hit, and having a very aggressive character come in and start barking orders, watching somebody in line all of a sudden stand up, sit straight, and get that look on their face, you're like, oh, I pressed a button with you, haven't I? Or people that are adrenaline junkies, the ones that will live off that fear, that surge of adrenaline. You can see it in their eyes when you get a pop. You'll see them shiver as they go through. And he's like, and either that or, ooh, you want me to talk about a button that presses for me in a negative way?
Yeah.
People bringing their kids.
Yeah.
We've started talking to the parents and calling the kids the walking therapy bills.
Mm-hmm.
So is there no age restriction if the parent is there?
As if the parent, if age restriction for the kids coming in is, especially for the haunt we have right now, is you have to have a parent or guardian that's 18 years of age or older with you, but not to go into the haunt with you. They have to be on the property on the outside. We don't let people escorted in younger than 13 or so, but if a parent is with them, I've seen them bring 5 or 6 year olds just carrying them with. And I mean, amusingly enough, you can tell what type of person they'll be to how these kids react. Some of the kids will be absolutely horrified. You know that's going to be intensive therapy. And there's some of the kids that will sit there and wave or will poke at the parent. I was like, and you're going to come work for us when you're old enough, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Future haunt. You should have little shirts printed up. Future haunt.
I think you hit your mute button again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. In my other life as a children's entertainer, as the gentleman, because my name down there says Pocket, I portray a court jester at Renaissance festivals, and I'm a kids entertainer. So watching kids blossom like that is something I love. Seeing parents bring children into a known psychological terror zone, that pisses me the hell off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. That people bringing kids way too young to Deadpool.
Yeah,
and it's like you don't know what you're doing. And then when I went to see Suicide Squad,
there's a lot of anime that you really should not be bringing kids to.
But of course, they're like, it's a cartoon.
Yeah. Well, we had that more in the 90s when we.
Yeah.
I've been part of one of the older anime conventions here since '97. And we had that same problem in 97, 98, 99. The parents would be like, it's a cartoon festival, so we're bringing all these in. And what's this Urasuki Doji? We'll just bring them into that. And we're like, oh, God.
No.
And so It was like, ugh. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's like sometimes, and I mean, there's a lot of things that we were just talking about this one the other night. There's a lot of things it's hard to do. Like I can't police all the things my kid's watching on YouTube.
Right.
Because he's watching such volumes of things now. I'm just so much that it's impossible for me to track what he's doing. All I can do is just spot check and hope for the best,
And even with all the filters, there are people getting around those filters too.
There are people getting around
Kids are
them.
smart.
Yeah, and kids
well,
are smart.
Not just the kids, but the people who upload stuff find ways to upload them to get around the
Right.
for kids only type thing.
And honestly, the truth of the matter is, I'm finding the better defense is just to prep him. Tell him what's already out there and get him prepped on it, and hope for the best, that he's got the cognitive wherewithal to not get sucked into some cult or something.
Right. Well, you know something? As an actor, both in a non-scary and a scary capacity, I thank you as a parent for making sure your child is well armed and well warned. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that too. But yeah, I wouldn't take him to a haunted house. But I have a feeling he doesn't have the same reaction that I do. He has a different ADD/trigger that hits him. He gets all screwed up with social interaction, social
Fair.
awkwardness, when the guy and the girl can't communicate with one another in a sitcom or something. That freaks him out. But
Shared
jump scares
anxiety.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, jump scares don't seem to
That'd
bother
be
him
interesting
at
to do
all.
an entire haunted house targeted at that type of anxiety.
That'd
We
be
would not have
wild.
anybody in the line. No,
I know.
ever, no.
It'd be hilarious. Though.
As an actor, I would refuse to do that. No, because
You
I
need to
get
do
the
that-
same thing.
You need to do that for April Fool's Day.
Oh God.
Right, but I mean, all of us sort of have a certain amount of to that
Oh, yeah.
shared anxiety, sort
a
of
cringe house
Yeah.
instead of a haunted house.
There you go.
cringe house. I don't know. Maybe it might we might be onto something, except that we won't be able to get a single actor because they're all going to be like John and go, oh
Nope.
yeah, no.
Well, that's why this. It
Oh,
has to
that-
be a short video and not an actual house.
Fair
Right.
enough.
So
Right. Oh man, that'd be kind of.
yeah, I've one of my
Kinda scary.
kiddos wants to watch Alien and Aliens, and I'm like, you're too young still, kiddo. They're awesome movies, and they're good ones to pick to watch. But yeah, Nick's
It's been
said
long
that-
enough since I've seen Alien. Now I don't remember where all the jump scares are. That's not good.
No,
I'm gonna have to have you pre-watch Alien now for me. Aliens, I can still remember where all 5 of them are, but Alien, and there's 7 if you actually go for the extended version. So, but I watch Aliens enough times that I can still track all of them, and I know when to no, not watching this.
Fair
yeah,
enough.
guys, jump scare version is enough that when I watch a show that I think he's going to want to watch, I'll make mental notes of where the jump scares are, so I can tell him
And
ahead
then
of time.
taps me.
And I'll tap
We
him.
did that with Cabin in the Woods. It was actually
Cabin in the Woods,
really
and
cool.
and not only that, in Cabin in the Woods, there's scenes that they set up to look like jump scares that don't happen. So when guys
He had
start,
he had to give me a different signal.
yeah, nothing's going to
Right.
happen. This is
So
a
you actually, from the amount of times he tapped on the shoulder, you probably had a bruise by that point, didn't you?
Right. But there was I knew when to look into my popcorn.
But Cabin in the Woods is one of those movies where I'm like, you gotta see this,
Right.
So-
And I was like, but I know that the entire premise is every trope from every horror
Mhm.
movie. And therefore, I can't go. They're going to have jump scares. And he's
Of
like,
course.
I'll note them all. And he did. He did a great job. He tapped me when it was a jump scare. And then he tapped me a different way when it was not a jump scare.
Right.
we were recently watching season 2 of The Boys because one of our friends hadn't seen it, and there's a jump scare in that, and so I reminded guy, jump scare's coming up.
And
I still remember that scene.
you guys keep
So-
talking about jump scares, and it goes into one of my favorite parts of haunting. And this is something that my spouse came up with years ago and helped develop. You guys are familiar with the author Orson Scott Card, correct?
Yes.
I am
Good game.
not a fan of him as a person, not a fan of his politics, but his writings are wonderful. He did a dissertation on fear. And there are 3 types of fear that, as haunted house workers, we tend to try to work
Evoke.
with. First of all, is terror. That's your jump scares. That's the sudden, what the hell, just all of a sudden. Terror is bread and butter for just about any haunter out there. Then you've got horror. Horror is the oh my god, what is that? Horror is the body horror. Horror is the Ripley with the alien coming into the to the shot of her shower and just sitting there. That's horror. Or the look of John Carpenter's The Thing as it's sitting there looking down at you from the
Mm-hmm.
ceiling. That is horror. Then the third type, which in my opinion is the hardest to do, but the most effective. My spouse is extremely good at this. Is dread. Dread is
Mm-hmm.
very simply the unknown, the fear of something that you think is there, but you're not sure. For example, my favorite example of dread is coming home after a long night, going up to your front door, and finding it open when you know that when you left the day before or when you left that morning, you locked it solid and you live by yourself. And all of a sudden you feel that fear hit the pit of your stomach. That is dread. And that is one of the hardest ones to do in a haunted house scenario. When you are expecting the gore, expecting the pop, if you can pull off a creep, a dread scare, then that's chef kiss right there.
Right. Like that one sentence thing where it was like the scariest thing is listening to your child cry at night when you know you don't have a child.
Hmm.
And it's like that. And the thing is, I actually am okay with horror and dread.
Which is fun.
I totally, and that, I mean, I've been enjoying Walking Dead because for the majority of Walking Dead, they weren't into jump scares, and it was all just horror, and that was
Hmm.
all it was like or dread, But it was all because, of course, the premise of Walking Dead has always been that the zombies aren't the monsters, and so all of the dread comes from that person is bad and is doing bad things, and I
Right,
loved that.
right.
That was great. That was wonderful.
Up until like
Um,
season 5 or 6 when they decided to start putting
yeah,
in some
they
jump
started
scares.
putting in jump scares, and I'm
Because
like, well,
they probably had enough people going, it's not scary enough. And
right.
so they had to try to appease everybody in the
But
audience.
I like the fact that you broke it down that way because really, legitimately, I like horror and dread, and
It's the
it's
terror.
just the
It's the
terror that
pop
I
scares,
can't
yeah.
deal with. I can't deal with the terror. But the other two, if I could, if there were movies out there that just were marked horror and dread, I'd watch them all and
Well,
be perfectly fine.
your classic 80s slasher films are mostly horror and dread because it's the they're there, you just don't know where, and then it's all the blood and gore. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of pop scares because they deal a lot more in the practical effects, or like the original, and we're not talking Evil Dead 2, but the original Evil Dead, the one that they lost the rights for.
Right,
That is pure gore right there. That is pure horror.
right, right, right. I mean, that's and especially things like, and I don't know why I did this to myself one time. I looked up on YouTube like the best gore effects or whatever, and I was like, I made it about halfway through, and then my stomach was turning, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Troy, I'm always fascinated. How did they do that? And I mean, nowadays you've got computers to assist, but when you're watching an 80s movie and they are chopping somebody into little teeny pieces and the person's yelling, and
Hmm.
you're like, how did they do that in 80s
Right.
special effects
They
land?
used a lot of stage magic tricks.
Oh, yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
So
Very practical. And that, I mean, the gore aside, that's fascinating to me.
yeah,
That's an amazing trick to
Oh yeah.
pull off.
Are
we
you
mentioned.
guys?
Oh, go ahead,
No, go
Todd.
ahead. Go ahead. No, go
I was
ahead.
going to say we mentioned Todd earlier on about our connection. And I didn't fill in that that's my brother, but he was huge into practical effects and
Hmm.
loved the book Fangora, the magazine Fangora. And so I learned all of that stuff at a really young age, which meant seeing horror films. I was always like, "Yep, that's latex. Yep, that's chicken noodle soup that has red food coloring mixed in with
Aha.
it." And that's so it's really cool to see the best effects now are a blend of practical and computer,
Yeah.
and it's it's one of those things that it's great to watch the two side by side. Like if you go watch the original Dawn of the Dead and then the remake of
Hmm.
Dawn of the Dead, and to
Right.
compare the two. So I'm sorry, what were you going to say, John?
Oh, that's fair. Are you guys familiar with the television show Face Off?
Yes,
Yes.
I only watched like 1 or 2 seasons of it though.
Yeah. Several seasons in, there was the special effects expert for, I believe it's goodness, I think I don't remember if it's seventh gate or not, but a fairly or Netherworld Haunts was actually there as part of the costume competition, and he was using haunter tricks to be able to make effects, positive and special effects the uh, on the costumes, and everybody around him was absolutely amazed. And my spouse kept going, "Oh, look, I know how to do that, and I know how to do that." And she was picking all the haunted effects, and it was wonderful seeing a haunted house expert take those practical things that we have to do, where the folks, again, like my spouse, that does the makeup and the costumes, under a budget to be able to create such wondrous things out of such simple items. I don't have the creativity for it. That'll hurt. I appreciate it when I see it.
Right.
One of the most fun murder mysteries I was at that Todd ran had a strong supernatural element to it, where the villain was a classic Rakasha.
Rakshasha.
Rakshasha, which were shapeshifters. Rakshasha. Rakshasha. And so he'd made this elaborate, almost Kazinti type outfit for it, since they're tiger humanoids. And I was hiding under a table, and we used the magician's trick of where the magician transforms into the assistant, or the assistant transforms into the magician. So one of the actresses, who was much shorter than me, had on a cloak. And so when we got to the reveal at the end, where the actor detective is piecing together all the clues for the audience after they've already written down all who they think did it, and it's like, you had to have done it because of X, Y, and Z, and therefore you must be. And she's now doing her exposition of like, you idiots, you don't realize what you've gotten yourselves into. And she turns her back to the audience and raises the cloak. And we'd rehearsed over and over again, where I start speaking the exact same lines as she's saying them, so our voices are one. And I come up and do the trick, and she goes under my legs and under the table, and I spin around and drop it, and the audience just freaked out because they were not expecting her to change into a Rakasha at that point. And
a rockabilly.
That was the only murder mystery I was at where they applauded before the end of the thing.
There you go.
So, but yeah, practical effects and stage magic has so many cool uses.
Just imagine going
6 minutes away. Sorry,
and what Brent had mentioned, I agree. Alien was a wonderful movie that had that dread atmosphere. That is absolutely just wonderful exposition. But the old school stuff like Alien or like The Thing and the practical effects are king. Like the stuff that Crypt TV is putting out, 95% of the stuff is doing is all practical.
Which is, in and of itself, I mean, again, talking about Penn and Teller, we've talked about them a number of times. I love when they do, like, what was it, that blast off that they did where they showed the trick of splitting. They had one set of the rocket box and Teller
the three boxes, and they were glass boxes.
A set of them that were transparent. So you could see Teller sliding down and then putting his legs up and then putting his hands up and, and all of the different things to do the trick. And I love that stuff. I mean, I know that it's kind of sad because you're breaking that sort of rule of telling the magic's tricks. But on the same token, gosh, it's fascinating to watch that happen.
Often when they do it, they're showing you how it's done, but they're doing it a different way.
Yeah.
Which is really clever of them.
It is a wonderful false reveal, and they're wonderful for that.
Oh yeah. There's a pair of brothers in China that I keep running into videos of, where one brother is doing a magic trick and the other brother screws it up right in the middle, so you can see what he was doing, how he did it. And I think it's really clever and cute. I think that's a neat thing. So anyway, okay, well, we've only got about 5 minutes left. Let's plug all the things you want to plug. Where can we find you?
Well, first of all, with Ren Fair, if you want to take a look at my character page for the Renaissance Festival, I do Pocket the Fool. I've been the Scottish jester for the court of King Robert the Bruce for the past 10 or 11 years. You can find me at Facebook at Pocket the Fool. You can find the puppets that I use at Angry Alpaca Rom on TikTok. My puppet actually has his own TikTok. It's interesting. You can also find a podcast that I'm helping run. I've been doing Dungeons & Dragons for the past 35 years. and we're doing a live play podcast called Tales from Derby City. It's not live yet. We're still recording. We're on episode 3 or 4. And I also have my own business for Dungeons and Dragons called the Night Owl Gaming Society, or the Nogs, that we will be doing branded merchandise. We will be doing, I do DM consultations. We're going to be doing some live stream of some games. I'm going to be interviewing industry professionals and fellow dungeon masters and players, as well as products, and just in general delving into the idea of what it takes to be a storyteller.
Right. Awesome. There we go. I
And
think I got all these things.
When you
The
get Tales of
podcast and
Derby
the Night Owl Gaming Society will be forthcoming. I'm still waiting for branding and all that good stuff.
Right.
when you get those,
Now,
you have to send them to us, and
Sure. It.
we'll launch them. We'll show all that
Fair
when
enough.
that actually happens. So,
Excellent.
and if people can also follow Pocket on Facebook, Pocket Full, and I'm sure when you get stuff going, you'll advertise it there too.
Fair enough.
Another way to
And
keep up with it.
pocket.the.fool.
Fix it, guy, fix it.
I have to hide it first, apparently.
I've disappeared. Oh no. .the.fool.
Pocket the Fool.
Yep.
Like
Gosh,
this.
is the as in THE.
Oh,
THE.
I like V better.
Well, that's
I mean,
all
Pocket
lizard
Fairy
people. That's lizard people that eat mice.
There
There we go.
I
That's
fixed it.
Yay! And there's links throughout all that to all the other social media I do, so you can follow whatever I do. And gentlemen, it's been absolutely wonderful getting to sit and chat and talk shop with you. It's been fun.
It
Yeah,
has
thank you.
been. It's wonderful having you here. I hate to say that I'm probably still not interested that much in going through your haunted house. However, I wish there was a way to do it where I could go through it and not get the jump scare. Like special ticket, just so I could see you guys do the things.
What you need is to send in a
'cause it's so much
drone
fun.
and have the drone flying above the action and just watch it from the drone.
Wonderful
Yes.
things is a lot of haunted houses, especially if you know folks in the industry, do lead lights on tours. So you can actually see the sets and see the stuff behind the scenes in action if you're curious about that side of things. You just have to check locally and see if you can find some folks.
That actually might be really fun. I mean, I'd be all about a lights on tour.
I know Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando does not only their regular scare stuff, but if you come in during the day and you have the tickets, they will give you lights on tours to the haunts, so you can see the set decorations in regular light. You can see the makeup effects. You can see how things are done, which is a
Nice.
dream for industry professionals.
Our,
Right,
our
and
local-
people who don't like to be jump scared. So
Exactly.
you know,
Our local giant roller coaster park, Elitch Gardens, has a Halloween thing. They might be too big and too corporate for us to be able to pull off something like that, but especially do it as a show. But that'd be really cool if we could.
Well, here's
Right?
the thing. You'll never know unless you ask.
Yep.
also true.
And you've heard my litany of stuff I do. If you guys want to have me on to talk about any old thing under the sun that I've had experience with, I am happy to flap my jaws for an hour with you guys.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
We
I mean
really
that
appreciate
was
it.
actually what I was about halfway through. I was like, you want me to like start dig, because clearly looking at your geekdom behind you, you are clearly one of us, and like totally we could probably just go on for a while.
Oh
about-
God, yes.
It doesn't matter what. So that was like, oh man. So that's awesome. So we might do that. We might just draft you someday and say, we're talking about this thing, and we will draft you.
Well, we'll be like, here's our topic. Are you interested? And-
Sure. Hey, I
and
am,
that'd be-
especially on Monday nights. Monday nights are usually my relax night. I'm happy to talk for an hour or so and just geek out because it helps me calm down for the day.
Awesome.
Fair. I can respect that. Well, okay. I guess that's pretty much our show.
Mhm.
If you want, John, you can hang out, and then the green room will be after the end credits.
Cool.
And you can just hang out with us, and we can talk to you then. And in the meantime, we'll go on ahead and roll our end credits once I figure out what button I'm supposed to push again and stuff like that. So that's all the time we've got for today. I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been John.
And you've been John. And this is Geek Day.